Hey yogis, Kit Kat here. Welcome to today's tutorial, and we're going to talk a little bit about lower back pain and see if we can put a few asanas together that might relieve you of some of that pain. So we are going to start today lying down on our backs, and if you have a block, this is a very beautiful thing. 2 books, a rolled up towel, it's all going to be good. So we're going to come down and lie down all the way onto the floor. Bring the heels up towards the hips and just take like a little bridge pose here, because what we're going to do is slide the block underneath our sacrum. And from here you can make little adjustments. You're going to step the right foot forward and the left foot forward and settle in here because it's a pretty comfy space to be. And you can take the arms out to the side so they're kind of like training wheels. Or if you'd like a little bit more of a stretch, you can take the arms over the head. So while you're lying in this beautiful supine stretch, I'm going to explain to you what we're doing. So we have a muscle in our body called the psoas. We have 2 of them, in fact, one either side of the spine, and they run from the L5 all the way down into our femur. So quite long muscles, and they are responsible pretty much for holding us together. The psoas is often referred to as our fight or flight muscle. So sometimes when you get that kick of anxiety and you feel that shortening in the gut, that's quite often the activation of the psoas. So this exercise here gives that little guy some rest, and that's what's so lovely about this exercise. You can just lie here. And I remember the first time I ever did this exercise, I was like, what is even the point? And the point is to find surrender. So just the inhale and exhale breath. The inhale allowing you to create a little space in the body, and the exhale allowing you to surrender and occupy the space that you create with breath. And that's pretty much all you have to do here. You can stay here for as little or as long as you like, and that's what is so beautiful about this particular asana. Such a wonderful feeling just lying here. So to come out of this pose, I'm simply going to bring my hands down by my hips, walk my feet back up to my butt, lift my butt off my block, and remove that from underneath me. So another pose or another shape that we can make that can alleviate lower back pain is legs up the wall. So you can do Viparita Karani, which we can do on the mat, and you can use the block as I just showed you, getting legs straight up. Or having a little bit of support behind the glutes can be a really nice thing. So get your butt right up to the wall and just release the legs there. And you don't have to have any tension happening in the thighs or the feet. And you really want to feel the lower back on the floor. So this is an inversion because the head and the hips are above the heart, above the head. Should I say the feet or the head? These guys are definitely feet. So you can relax with the feet up the wall here, and you'll be able to feel the length of the spine on the back. And you can just simply rest here with your hands on the belly. And just taking some of that weight off the feet and off the spine and kind of sending the blood in the other direction will give your back some respite. So to get out of this one, all I'm going to do is roll over to the side and make my way back to my mat. So coming back into a supine position, if you find yourself moving through your asana and you're like, oh, I've got a little bit of pinching, or you can always come and take one of these poses. So a really good one here is what we call constructive rest. So my feet are out about as wide as my mat, so they're broader than my hips here. And I'm going to try and press my lumbar spine, or my whole spine in fact, into the earth. So feeling the chin tucked slightly in towards the throat. And the goal is to get the whole back body down onto the earth. And all I'm going to do is just rest the knees together here. So you might not have the spine all the way down to the earth here, but it's just quite a nice sensation working towards that and feeling that length through the back body. Next exercise on the agenda is a little supine twist. So keeping the knees a little bit away from the chest, and I'm going to take the arms out to the side, and I'm just going to drop my knees over to the left. Now, there are a few mozzies floating around today, and they're quite annoying, I will say. I've tried not to kill them, but the temptation is very strong. Opening up the arms. You can cactus the arms here and gaze away from the knees. You can place the hand on the knee, or you can place the hand in the hip crease, and just like you're doing a karate chop in that hip crease, just send that away a little bit, and you're going to feel that stretch down the outside of the back body. Now the goal here is to try and relax. So really use the inhale and exhale breath. The inhale to create the space, and the exhale is to surrender and occupy that space. Then you can bring the knees back through the center, give yourself a little bit of a hug here, maybe a little bit of a back massage as you roll side to side, and then you're going to take that supine twist on the other side. So the knees gently away from the chest on this version or variation, dropping the knees over to the right, and extending the arms in opposite directions at shoulder height. You might like to cactus the arm and gaze away from the direction of the legs. You can also, as I said, place the hand on the knee, or get your karate chop action straight into the hip there, and see if you can draw the hip away from the shoulder. So that does feel quite nice. And again, the object of the stretch here, or this particular asana, is to find some release or respite. So we use the breath in order to do that. So we're going to take an inhale breath, fill the body with fresh oxygen. And as you exhale, see if you can surrender into that space. Now, no rules or regulations. You can stay here for as little or as long as you like. You can come back to the center, have a little roll around on the back for that little back massage. And then we're going to come all the way to seated. So, my next exercise here, or asana, is actually Anjaneyana asana, so which is a low lunge. So we're going to come up into tabletop. And from tabletop, we're just going to step our right leg forward. So for the purpose of this particular exercise, I'm going to have my foot out in front of my knee. I'm going to use my hands onto my knees for support. Now you can have the foot flat to the floor at the back, or if you prefer, you can tuck the toes. Totally yogi's choice. So in the first instance, we are going to activate the core. And I'm just going to show you why we're going to do that. So the tendency can be in this exercise to simply slump down into the exercise. But you can see here I've got quite a curve in my lumbar spine. So in order to alleviate that curve, we want to create a little bit more length in that space. And to enable us to do that, what we're going to do is activate the core. And to do that, I like to think of a little cue, which is shortening the distance between the ribs and the hips. So you can see as I draw my hips towards my ribs, what happens is I get that lengthening through the back body. So this can also be belly to spine if that cue enables you to get that same action. And some people like to say to draw the tailbone down towards the earth. Now I try not to use the cue to tuck the tailbone, because what happens is you get your Saturday night, disco hips on. So we want to let go of that one, because it's not actually a tucking action, because what happens there is we just step straight into the hip flexors on the left hand side. What we want to do is get that length in the spine. So shorten the distance between the ribs and the hips, or draw belly to spine, tailbone goes down. From here, hands press into that right knee, and I'm simply going to send the body weight, or surrender down to the earth, sending the body slightly forward, but I still have that activation of the core and that lengthening through the spine. My next action here is a scissoring of the hips. So this knee is tracking towards the midline, but I get this action. So you can see that with sound effects, very important. Hand on the knee, inhale the breath, so you can create a little bit more length through the spine with the activation of the core, And as you exhale, you can surrender a little deeper into that space. What we want to do is make sure that we don't lose that space that we've created in the back body. And then you can come back and do that very same exercise on the other side. So stepping the left foot out in front of the left knee, lifting up nice and tall, finding that scissoring action of the hips, activating the core, so shortening the distance of the ribs with the hips, drawing the belly towards the spine or the tailbone down towards the earth, hands pressed onto the knee. Inhale the breath, and as you exhale, draw the hips forward, down towards the earth. Try and keep that length through the spine, and here comes that scissoring action there. And release. So you can come down at this point, and this is a really nice place to take that constructive rest that we just talked about then. So a lot of these stretches, as I mentioned, are great for the psoas, and our psoas is that really long muscle that wraps around the body on either side from the spine to the femur. And sometimes what we need to do to balance out the stretch that we're doing for the psoas is actually strengthen the glutes. So these two big bad boys here. So sometimes coming into tabletop, and it might seem really disco and 80s, but we're going to activate the core, lengthen the tailbone away from the crown of the head, and we're just going to send that foot to the back, and it's as easy as doing 10 little pulses like this, keeping the core activated, and drop it down. And you can straight away do the other side. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop it down. What we want to remember when we're doing those exercises is to activate the core. So again, that shortening of distance between the ribs and the hips, activation of the belly towards the spine, and we're definitely feeling a sensation of drawing the crown of the head away from the tailbone so that we have as much length happening through the spine again. So it's just a matter of simply lifting away, activating the core. So good to have this leg straight and the foot flexed, and instead of leaning into one side, we want to bring the body weight so that we're evenly placed between both hands. Activation of the core. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I've actually activated my glute muscle when I'm doing that. So the gluteus maximus, which is the biggest one out of the bunch, there's 3 of them. And when I activate here, I can feel a little bit of an isometric contraction, which means I'm squeezing into the glute and feeling that action. So that's how we create a little bit of glute burn there. And to alleviate that, simple press back into child's pose, and you can drop the head down to the floor. So one more little, or actually 2 more little tricks here. So I'm going to bring my bolster into my child's pose, and I'm simply going to lie down over the top of that. So you can see I've created some rounding in the spine here. And you can even bring this block under the front of the head just to take the pressure off there. A little gentle send of the hips back towards the heels. And just feeling some respite in this space. We call that supported child's pose, so a little bit of a variation there. And my very last one, which is a beautiful space to sleep in, or you can shavasana in this space, is this guy is going to go directly underneath my knees. So I'm down on the earth, my legs are over the top of my bolster, and this is directly supporting my knees. And as I roll back down to the earth, I'm going to have to move that. And from here, we take absolute respite from the world in our shavasana. So I like to have my hands on my hips, tucking my chin into my throat, and just allowing yourself to drift away, letting the thoughts drift away with the exhale breath, and just being in that space of peace and quiet. When you're ready to come out of this space again, there's no rules or regulations about how long